What do you think? Seductive. That's nice.
It's really good.
Hi, and welcome to the Q&A session connected to the curated selection of films called Home. We're really grateful to be joined by filmmakers from around the globe who will share insights into their wonderful work. And I'm going to ask them now to introduce themselves to you.
Hi, hello, my name is Stephanie Schieber Lorenesi. My film is called Empty Spaces, or in Spanish, Espacios Vacíos. It tells the story of two women. One of them is starting to get older and her body's starting to betray her, and the other one takes care of her and her house and faces the decision to stay there on her job or go take care of her eldest daughter who's pregnant. And it's just how their story develops. And it's, yeah, that's basically it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm the creator of I'll Call You Later, a short that explains what later means to your parents and what happens when it's too late.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Harmer and I'm co-writer, producer and performer of dark comedy Lady What Does, which features two women who have a great bond and a relationship which is put to the test during the short film.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Sara Jordan and I'm also with Lady What Does. I directed it and co-wrote it with Lisa, and as you can probably tell, I was also in it, so hello.
Hi, my name's Lynda Reese and I am the director of Lancaster Park. And Lancaster Park is about a mother and daughter, and a mother who thinks that her daughter might have committed a crime. And the theme is how far you go to protect your child.
Thanks, Lynda.
Hello, I am Kathy O. Lofton from the United States, and I am the writer, director, and editor of the short film Life as We COVID. And this film is basically visual poetry that depicts the perils and challenges and the experience of the African American elderly amid this world pandemic of COVID-19.
Thank you. What a privilege it is to be able to connect with you today. And we're particularly grateful for those of you who have navigated large time differences in order to be with us just now. And I'd like to hear your responses to this question, if you're okay with it. We're really interested in why you wanted to make your film.
So I wanted to make my film because both characters are loosely based on people that I know. And my grandma has dementia, and I saw the process of her starting to need every time more people to help, like every time more help, basically. And on the other side, Irene, which is the housekeeper, I did a photo reportage about women that work as housekeepers in Guatemala City, and it's a job that it's not regulated, so yet very important for the economy and for the culture. And I wanted to bring attention to that job, and I wanted also to bring attention to how these two women relate in such an intimate space, which is the house, where they live alone, quite alone and isolated, but still have certain boundaries that are made because of social, economic differences, cultural differences, and certain vestiges from colonialism. So I wanted to explore also how they relate to the space and to each other. And I think these women are usually not seen on screen And I think their stories are really important, and they are the backbone of my culture and my, a lot of, society in Guatemala in general. So I wanted to explore all these things and, to really try to bring these characters to life, and hopefully more people will see their stories. So yeah, that's basically why.
Thank you.
Calculator was inspired by the stories my mom told about my grandfather and my grandmother, because my mom told that she was very sad when my grandfather died because it was too early and she couldn't hear all the stories. And we tried to listen all the stories about my grandmother and what she does, what she likes, because we think that time spent with her is very important right now.
Thanks.
The reasons for wanting to make our film, I guess, stem from the relationship that Sara and I have had for over 30 years. We've worked together on a lot of projects in the past, and we wanted to get together again and write and perform something that we felt was very much needed, to use comedy to discuss quite dark themes, and to really celebrate how women, quite often from different backgrounds, different circumstances, can still have a closeness and a bond, a friendship and a loyalty. And I think that the reason for us coming together and writing Lady What Does is, I guess, a celebration of what we've shared as a friendship, but also professionally, and looking at society, how we can highlight some of the sort of current themes for women, especially those facing their 50s. And it was an exciting process to jointly work on and experiment with different ideas. And it was a great opportunity to bring together our experiences both professionally and personally.
I made Lancaster Park to sort of delve into the mother-daughter relationship. I'm a single mum, raised a daughter, and single parents and their children, especially a woman and daughter, have a very different relationship to traditional role family. And so I wanted to look at how there's there's a lot of guilt attached to single parenting, and I wanted to address that. And I went also how far you would go. It stemmed from a conversation with the writer, who I know well, about exactly how far you would go to protect your child, even if you knew that they, or thought that they had done something wrong. I think it came up from a conversation where I had said, even Jeffrey Dahmer's mom loved Jeffrey Dahmer. And so we're not as extreme as that in Lancaster Park, but that was how the theme of the film started.
I decided to make Life as We Code It as a response to this unprecedented time in our world history. And I wanted to chronicle this unexplainable event that affects all of us. More specifically, I wanted to address the elderly population because I have an affinity for the elderly and vulnerable populations. I focused in on the African American population because we are dying at a disproportionate rate from COVID-19. And I wanted to combine some different elements to make the film very creative. So I combined poetry along with my images for this film. And I wanted to make it to hopefully bring attention to this particular group and to have people exercise compassion particularly for a generation before us that has paved the way and done so many things, and to just let them die, as I heard in some news reports in Europe, I think patients were abandoned in a nursing home when the pandemic broke out, and they just left them there to die. And those things are just totally unacceptable. So I hope that by making this film, it will make people more conscientious about everyone, not just the elderly, amid this pandemic.
I wanted to put together some footage that I had recorded of my grandmother in a way that was able to bring people into her life and into our lives and experiences of Dominica, an island that is like very treasured by me and my family. And I was wanting to do it especially with her because of trying to bring another perspective to my work and films, one being female perspective, the next being like an older female's perspective. And I sort of felt like a lot of work that I was doing before had been like male driven, like stories talking about like a male experience, and like from music videos right up until like doing short documentaries. That was the sort of environment I was in. Even though I was brought up by women, a lot of my stories tended to focus on men. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to bring in that whole other perspective, and which would be really useful to making it like a richer story.
I guess for me, all films come from a kind of very personal place, but this one ended up being even more so, almost in a literal way, because being a migrant in New Zealand myself, when the opportunity came to make a film, it was kind of very clear to me that I couldn't and even didn't want to tell a story about New Zealand culture or Maori culture, because that was not my own, and I didn't want to appropriate it in any disrespectful way. But at the same time, I didn't want to disregard it altogether and tell a story that could be set anywhere. I wanted to honor the land and the community I was in, and the point in my life I was in as well. So the movie became quite literally a weaving of those threads. So my own Portuguese background, with even the economical crisis that was going on at the time, with a lot of young people migrating overseas, and that having that meet the New Zealand culture and the Maori culture within the New Zealand culture, and have those threads be the backdrop that holds the story of the film, that then the essence is about life and new beginnings and changes, which then is relatable to anybody in the world.
Thank you so much, everyone, for those answers. I think one of the inspiring things about the filmmakers who come to WOFF is the way there is this passionate commitment to sharing stories which increase understanding. And it's a real privilege to be able to screen this work. And my second question is, as we all know, filmmaking is not an easy ride. It needs so much grit and determination to get a project from start to finish. And so we're interested in what challenges you had to overcome to bring your film to fruition.
So there were several challenges. As you say, there's always a grit to it, in the sense that it's not always as easy. I had a problem with basically post-production was hard for me because I didn't have the money to finish it. So I had to wait well, almost a year to be able to pay for a good sound design, because we had troubles with sound when we were filming. But in general, it was quite a smooth ride. Like the days of filming were really nice, and the actresses they brought the characters to life. And I got a chance to work with Maria Teresa Martinez. She is one of the most famous theater actors in Guatemala. She has been acting for 75 years now. So I got a chance to learn a lot from her. And the character that plays Irene, she's not a trained actress, but she just got the character because she has gone through similar things in life to what the character goes through. And she was just such a giving and caring soul. And I think that more than difficulties in a way, I think the difficulties you overcome if the team is together. And we had a really good crew and cast. And I think we all, in one way or another, knew these characters from our life. So I think we have a soft spot for, our grandmas or, caretakers that even when we were kids, both my parents worked when I was young. So I was usually, with somebody else taking care of me, and like everybody related to those things. So yeah, it was a wonderful process, really.
With Alcohol-Later, I had some problems because it was my second film, and with the second film I had a lot of, let's say, a little experience, because I had to paint fully painted backgrounds. I had to do really smooth animation. I had to have a concept that was really nice and people would really like to watch. And I had to learn animation on a different program because with the first animation that I made, I used another program. So I had to start from zero because I didn't know. Then with the post-production, I had to learn After Effects because I didn't know it, because I didn't thought that I would really need it. I had to search for sounds. I had to search for kids laughing. I had to search for a lot of things that I didn't thought at the start that I needed. But it was a smooth ride at the end.
Hi. Yes, the challenges. Well, the sound always seems to be a challenge on films. Well, films that I've been involved in anyway. And the sound recordist on this film, it was his first day and he had never done sound before. So that created its own set of problems on the day and actually afterwards, because we then had to spend quite a lot of money trying to pay other people to put the sound on. I mean, he was so lovely and he did the absolute best he could. So that was a challenge. The crew were brilliant. We only had 4 people, so that was really nice because it was just very small. And I think one of the biggest challenges, probably for Lisa and myself, was that normally if you're acting with someone, you wouldn't dream of commenting on their performance at all. It's just not done. I wouldn't say, oh, you need a bit more energy, or I think. But because I was directing and we're in the scene together, I had to say to Lisa, oh, hang on, let's take that again, or don't take my energy or whatever. And she was fantastic, because that is hard to be in the scene and take that. But as she said, we have been friends for 30 years, so we actually did manage to get through it without that being too much of a problem. And of course, I also had the problem that I was directing myself, so I was having to perform and then think, was that good? Was that the take? And I couldn't have the eye that I normally have when I'm directing. So there were quite a few takes that had the boom in, because also it was his first day. So you get a brilliant shot and then the boom was in. It's like, obviously if I'd been able to see that, I would have noticed it. So I think around that, there were definitely note to self, probably don't direct something when you're in it again. But funnily enough, I think because we know each other so well, we did manage to sort of feel what was going on between us, and it worked okay. Post-production's always, I find, the difficult bit, and the bit that you really could do with a big budget to put into things. And the colour, I particularly wanted it to be very colourful and bright, because so often things that involve murder or that kind of theme, they go on the grey shades and the tea. And I thought, no, I want it really vibrant and sort of more reflecting the women. And as you can see, it is very vibrant. It was slightly too vibrant, but then when you're getting someone to do something for nothing, you basically have to say thank you very much and take whatever they give you. So I always find that post-production is the thing that you just wish you had a big budget. I mean, it cost us almost nothing. And we used this amazing light system on that, which I thought was brilliant, where they just came and set up a huge light outside, and then outside the house, and then they basically bounced the light through every room just using reflectors. And from an acting point of view, it was fantastic, because you just didn't have lights all around you, and you didn't have the heat. And it was so quick to, you know, I don't like that setup, let's change. All you had to do was put down the reflectors and pop it up. So that made things super easy. And the cast and crew, well, us two, obviously brilliant, were easy. So it didn't have that many challenges, but everyone, you don't make a film without some challenges. So I was quite happy. I think we got away lightly.
Is it me jumping in now? Yeah, we had the biggest challenge initially was Lancaster Park is set in the high desert in California, and the story hinges on being stranded in the desert, and how in reality, like right now, if you go out to the desert, it's 120 degrees, and if you're out there with no water, no shade, and you probably will last 3 or 4 hours before you would sort of keel over. And we were filming in May of last year, and usually by May, the desert's the desert and everything's great. But the winter of 2018 to 2019, we had unprecedented rainfall and what we call a super bloom, where the desert just blooms. And I went up to scout and take photos, and my dead desert scene with the Joshua trees was all green with poppies and yellow and purple flowers everywhere. And we were 2 weeks out, and I was like, okay, well, there's no rain scheduled, and hopefully it will die off. And so it started to die off. We were slated to shoot, and I get out there. I've got 3 days to shoot my nearly 20-minute film. And we drove out to the first day's location, and on the way, it was 25 minutes from where we were staying. We were in a convoy of vehicles, and little raindrops are hitting the windshield of my car as I'm driving along from my big sort of car driving shot as she drives off into the desert. And I'm driving along going, no, it's not raining. It's not raining. It's not raining. It's definitely not raining. It's going to be okay. If we shoot it right, you won't notice. And the shot that we were going out to shoot is a long sort of split shot of the car coming towards us. And we were waiting. We didn't own the road. We were just totally stealing all the shots. So we were waiting, and it's a big north-south in the state trucking route. So we were waiting for the trucks to go by. And as the trucks are coming down, at one point I was like, look, we'll just let a truck go by and we'll just have her drive. And as the trucks were driving towards us, these plumes of water were coming out of the side of the tires. And I just was like, we can't be here. This is just not going to work. So we had to suddenly jump into our interior sets, where we were transforming with 2 days prep time to completely destroyed, abandoned motorhomes and turning them into people's homes. And I had to call my production designer and say, you've got about 25 minutes before we arrive. We're coming back to shoot. And she pulled that off. That was our shooting crisis. The only other big crisis was a week before shooting. The woman I had originally cast as Rita, the mom, she's an actress. Her husband's an actor. They have small children, and they trade off. When one's working, the other parents, vice versa. And a week before we were going to shoot, her husband got a big gig and had to leave, and she called me and said, I can't come. And I think, what do you mean you can't come? Oh my God. So Sarah Arrington, who played Rita, was an actress in a Friends film, and she said, why don't you call Sarah and see? And she stepped right in, and now I can't imagine Rita being anybody else but Sarah. So sometimes good things come from bad.
My challenges were minimal compared to my lovely colleagues here. Cinematically, the biggest challenge was, how do I make a film while in quarantine? So I randomly filmed images in the house. That's how it started. I had no idea how they were going to come together. I just said, let's film this, let's film this. And it really unfolded on its own as I saw the images, the story came together. So coming up with a concept and something that would hopefully make sense was my biggest challenge. And then technically, being a one-woman show, as many others are, I had to be the crew. I was the writer, the director, the cinematographer, the editor. And
Wow.
I'm not an editor by trade, and so I'm self-taught. So that challenge of many redos, doing it over, watching footage, going back, catching glitches, putting it together, finding music. I had to audition a lot of music. What would work for this? And so those were my two challenges in making the film.
While there were a few technical challenges in terms of being in a hot country and you know, your equipment overheating and all this kind of stuff, and having to cool out for a bit, and also not having the best sound equipment that we could mic up my grandmother with. I think the main challenge was knowing how to cut together a story in the edit that was concise and coherent and actually, you know, followed a line. I was trying to draw in footage that was unrelated initially to the story I was eventually trying to tell. Like the motivations behind filming the first series of footage were different from those at the end, which I know that's what kind of happens in documentary. Maybe you're following something as it develops over time, but that is something that I'm completely a novice at. And so when it came to the edit, I was having to go through a lot of the footage, work out what works, what doesn't, and how do we come to a conclusion at the end where it makes sense and people are like, oh, I see what they were sort of trying to say there.
Challenges, oh my God, there were so many. I got gray hairs from doing this project. Making an independent film, producing, directing, and keeping a day job, and getting the logistics, not just an independent film, but getting people from the two most distant places in the world come together was quite an endeavor. And I literally knocked on every door. I got 2 community grants. We are from a smaller city in New Zealand, so we weren't even in the big Auckland, Wellington centres. So it was another challenge, but at the same time, another opportunity to showcase our community and get people involved and get hands-on experience, allow them to have hands-on experience in film. And we ended up having one local person in every department, which I was so happy about. And for example, the hair and makeup team, the tutors came with students, which normally they wouldn't have the opportunity to have film experience. So for them, it was huge. And that made me so happy, because for me, it was very important to get my community, that this benefited my community as well. And yeah, well, literally, that's the magic of filmmaking, because you get so many people, from the neighbor next door all the way to the musician and the artists and the technical people. But like, I worked in the hospital, and I had so many people from the hospital baking for the film, like people around, giving me lending me props and wardrobe. My boss brewing beers for the crew for when we wrapped up every day. That sort of thing, it just made it such an unique experience. That, in the same way that the story unfolds and on screen, it also kind of mirrors what happened behind the scenes, like all of our cultures and our stories coming together to create something, which is the magic of filmmaking. It's not only the destination, but also the journey of all of us coming together.
Thank you so much, everyone, for those amazing answers. There's nothing that illustrates more the passion, commitment, problem solving, determination that filmmakers have to have, and how to be innovative in the moment, how to get around obstacles. There's no better demonstration than all the answers that we've heard, and we really salute you all. I was actually having my own problem as some work started up outside, really noisy work, because you were all giving your answers. So I was having to use my mute button when I wasn't expecting to just now. So it shows that we're all have to be on our toes all the time. And what a privilege it is for WOFF to be able to showcase your work and hear more about your approach to it. So thanks very much once again for joining. We really hope to see you live next year when we can all be together physically, and keep making your wonderful work. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.